Hello again, once more, welcome to the cellar that is Leopard Street, with cobwebs, added cobwebs. Been a bit of a bitty week this week, not really had a lot of time to do much, so there's a few things I'm just having a little bit of an overview on, and we're going to look at the plan going forward, and I'm going to run a train or two because it's a model railway, why not? So, what have we done? Now, those of you who watched the video the other day will know I now have a power on indicator, currently off because the layout's currently switched off. We've got that 3D printed, still not fixed down. I'm waiting on some connectors, a little right angle JST connector, because then I can solder the LEDs and stuff, and I've got something that's basically I want the wires to come out this way. I don't want the wires to come out the top because there's going to be things over the top of this. That can then be fitted. This little test board has been disconnected. New wires in here. These go down to a connector block down here, and now this board itself is now wired up. Doesn't have the droppers, it's wired to its panel. Need to clarify that. It's been a bit warm. I've not really felt like slaving over a soldering iron. I've got a pair of DTC2s that need welding. I've got another pair actually for the reverse loops that side. They need to go in as well. They can then go in. I can get these droppers fitted. I can get these powered. Over there, that's now done. So the very end of the reversing loops are now set up. Still 3 more wires to do over there. I ran out of purple 1602. There's more coming. That'll also allow me to put the DTC8, which is half built. I have nearly built that, which is going to go on the board for here. That's all going to get wired in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hand over to planning me upstairs, and we're going to look at what needs to be done, and what still is to be done, and what has been done, and sort of how it's planned. And then we're going to look at this little train here in the middle having a run round. My A2, I now have some more of the Thompson coaches. Yes, I mean, you can see inside them, they're a bit rubbish. I have got plans for these. Oh, I've got some plans for these. But we're going to run them, just see how it looks, and see how free rolling and how well they work. So, over to planning me, and then we'll be back. Yes, and here we are, welcome to the desk. Leopard Street has quite a long list of things to be done. There's a lot more scenic work, there's a lot more wiring, there's a lot more signalling, more automation, more control systems, the entire upper level where the station's going to be, let alone building the station. However, this video, what I'm going to look at is just the work required to bring the reversing loops into operation. Now, the bits in purple here are the reversing sections. The extra board in the middle, that was put together in episode 59. Episode 60-61 showed the track going in, the track bed, a little bit of basic wiring. That sort of means I can roll trains around here, but I can't actually run them as reversing loops. So since then I've been doing a little bit more work. So what we've had, is the PCB rail joiners have gone down, then got at them with a razor saw and made various cuts, giving me the sections and the insulation break. And this has led into the bits of the track shown in red here now being fully operational. By fully operational, what I mean is that they are on the block detection system, they are powered up, trains can run on them, it's all good stuff. Now the bits in blue are only partly operational. This, as you can see, includes the new reversing loops, the entrance to them, and one point on the main line. These tracks can have trains run on them, they are not yet part of the block detection system, so I can only run trains manually. And the reversing loops, which we showed earlier, don't actually reverse yet. Now to get the rest of the tracks working, I need to put some more droppers in, a mix of blue, brown and purple. Purple just because I ran out, but that section does actually work. I just want to put the extra feeds in, and then the other sections which allow me to actually run on the board. So there's 9 pairs of droppers on the board, and then 3 more pairs on the board at the end. And once they're in and wired up, I will be able to drive trains all the way around, sort of. There is, however, quite a long list of other little bits and pieces to do. So, in no particular order, this is board G. Top right, we have the second of the DTC8 board modules. That needs connecting down to the second little PCF 8575 down in the bottom middle. And what that'll do, that will put the 3-yard exit tracks onto the block detection system. It will also put the single point that's on the main line, which was feed number 9, onto the block detection system as well. Yeah, further with block detection, this is another DTC8 partially assembled. This one is going to go onto board D. Yeah, it's going to go on that little grey rectangle to the top. Another PCF little board, they're these small blue boards, that also needs fitting to that board. That board is then going to need some software alterations. I also need to recalibrate the 2 points on that board because they are chattering slightly, so they're one of them's not quite lined up right and it's under stress. Yeah, back up on top of board G, where those 2 little grey squares are, there's going to be a pair of DTC2 block detection boards. They are going to be responsible for handling the detection of trains in the reversing loop sections on board G. Board F already has that section wired up. Yeah, and over to the right of these, there's going to be a triple set of double pole, double throw crossover relays, which will handle the actual reversing. There will be the microcontroller which is going to handle those and is also, through that little hole in the board, going to be monitoring all of the infrared sensors. And you can just about see 2 of those poking through the holes there with the grey PCB stand. As I mentioned in the clip earlier, that is going to get some LEDs on it pointing downwards, and then I can test and commission all of that. Speaking of sensors, I've also got these 4 little beauties to build. These are the Merg DTC2. These track 2 channels each. I actually need 3 channels, but there isn't a 3-channel one. I didn't fancy building an 8 and not using most of it. So, yeah, 2 of those will go on board G, 2 of them will go on board I. Yeah, and they'll be fitted to this panel here, which is going to have a terminal block, which will bring all of the 3 blocks into one place. Probably the brown rail will go through the DTC2s, the blue rail will all be commoned, and that will then feed into a board controller, which will live here. As you can see, there is a 12-way connector here. This has got the power, the DCC bus and the various DC feeds. The spare connectors at the bottom, the 3 block detection boards on board G, the 2 boards and the 3 wires, are actually going to come onto board I and talk to the board I board controller. Much easier than adding yet another I/O module onto board G's controller. The board's basically next to it, so it's actually less wiring as well, which should make life reasonably simple. Now, this is the short-term plan. Because of the level of work here, this is going to take a couple of weeks to actually complete. And not all of this is very exciting to watch. I'm going to be continuing the weekly update videos, likely on a Tuesday covering sort of the previous week. As and when new bits of track come online, they'll be demonstrated. Yeah, and I'll sort of monitor against this rather long list of what activities I've done and how far we've gone. Those videos are probably going to include a little bit of train running because it fills time and it'll look quite good. Electronics videos are going to carry on Thursday. Saturday update is going to focus much more on train running, hopefully some bits of wiring so that I don't end up overdosing on glue and cider during the week from everything else. Yeah, anyway, enough waffle. Meanwhile, back to the cellar and we shall look at some trains. Okay, I'm back. Now, the more observant among you will have noticed this is not the A2 with a passenger train. This is my K3 with some vans. Yeah, I was having some fun and games. So just going to rumble around nice and slowly around here. Bit of a problem over there with the track, and a bit of a problem with the coaches behind the A2. So I'm going to bring the K3 round. I'm going to stop her. I'm going to have a little look at what some of the problems were. Sort of in the order I discovered them, shall we say, because that's... oh yeah, and these 3 are no longer part of the rake. Naughty wagons. Troublesome trucks. We do need to do an episode about that. So, what do we have? Well, I'm going to bring the... Can't really run the A2 round at the moment because there's things blocking the line. Let me just grab one of the coaches and I'll be back. Okay, back. Light, my phone's come on again. Problem. This coach This is well, I say a new one, new to me. Put on, tried running round. Got over there, Leopard Junction. I'll zoom in, I'll get that little bit there where there's some points. Every single time derailed. Low speed, high speed, whatever, just derailed. So I did the sensible thing. Sensible, me, anyway. Took the coach out of the train, rolled it over the junction, and rolls over fine. Didn't derail. Couldn't get it to derail, which I was a little bit surprised at. What the hell's causing this? Put it back in the train, derailed every time. Problem, I'll see if I can do this one-handed without derailing everything else, if I can. Problem was the couplings, specifically the coupling hooks. Now they're all right now. This whole area was completely crudded over, just nonsense. I mean, I've cleaned it, but it was just God only knows what, hair and all sorts. But the coupling hook was bent, quite a bit to one side. Same at the other end. Basically supposed to be packaged when I've received it. I had my own fault for not straightening them. These are big couplings, but if you look, the hook doesn't move much side to side. That's it. So this was going around the corner, which is 18-inch radius, and these hooks were binding with the following coach. If you notice, it doesn't have a hook. I've swapped the order of the coaches around. This one was in the second position. It's now at the front. And the hooks were binding. It's putting a little bit of locking force on the wheels. It was coming to the point, and it was just overriding. So cleared that out, and that now works. I've also put the, I've re-wheeled this, which is why I was wanting to test it out. So yeah, that was interesting. And off the back of that, I thought, well, okay, I've got that fixed. I'm now going to try and do, so I'm just trying to re-rail this thing one-handed. That on? No, it's not on. Yeah, now it's on. So couple back up there, and these couplings are awful because they're at the wrong height slightly. So again, try to couple it gently like so. It's coupled. And if you look down here, you see they miss completely. So what I need to do is position that carefully and hook it in there so it hooks on the back of the loco, and then go back and re-rail the other end of the wagon again. So the coach, right. That was one of the problems. I was getting another one, and for that I need to come to a different part of the layout. So I will catch you again in a second. The problem's here. I fixed it, which is why it now looks a bit of a mess. You can see I've removed two sleepers. Now when I laid this track, I put some sleepers under there. These are insulating rail joiners. What I was doing was lifting the track up a bit to be a point at the join. Not helped by the fact I hadn't realised I put the sleepers in upside down. Put them the right way up, maybe it wouldn't have worked as bad, but probably still a problem. There are one or two other points on the layout that have the same issue, but not so bad. The problem here, this is quite a tight curve. It's actually 18-inch. It doesn't look it because you look at it from this side. See, it's a sort of camera trick. And if I put you here and we sort of follow round, you can see it is actually quite sharp. But from this side and this sort of angle where you normally look at it, it looks quite gentle. The problem was, and there's another similar issue here, but that's going to be a lot harder to solve. The track came down, came up to a bit of a peak, then dropped down again. Now at low speed, it wasn't a huge problem. Weirdly, the goods trains make it round quite happily, possibly because they've got short wheelbases. The Eighth 2 came around, and at low speed, not a problem. Higher speed, occasionally the front pony truck derailed, or more commonly the tender derailed. And it then comes around here, and it hits a set of points. And obviously when you're trailing axles in the forefoot, yeah, points don't go well. So yeah, a little bit of a problem. Fixed by basically grabbing the sleepers, cutting them out and pulling them out, and the track is now it's not perfect, but it's level. Previously, that was noticeably rising up. The reason the K3 was running round is I figured, torture test, can the dapole wagons cope with it? And they do, apart from, weirdly, the ones I've added weight to, which I think I need to do a bit more work with. I also had a look around here where I had some derailments. I thought it was this track joint, and it's not. It's here. There's actually a blob of solder on the inside, which I've mostly got rid of. So that's a little bit of a problem there. There is a weird track alignment issue here, though. Again, if I sort of zoom in, you might be able to see this a little bit better. If we look down there, you can see those two rails are offset slightly. It's not perfect, but what it means, if I can just sort of hold this with one hand, wheels come along because the trains travel this direction, and they're hitting that and riding up. So in theory, this board needs moving over. Then look at this track. Now they're actually lined up perfectly. Even vertically they're lined up perfectly. But that one isn't. Now they were lined up, they were all glued down and they were cut. Yeah, a little bit of a problem. I'm actually pondering pulling up and relaying some of this track, but also redoing the alignment dowels for this bit here. This is a junction that's really going to matter because there's going to be two tracks there, and then later on there's going to be two tracks up there. The alignment over here has got to be spot on. This is also going to be hidden track, so it needs to be more reliable than it is. So that may be a job in the not too distant future. It's Copydex, it's Copydexed ballast. Removing the rails is relatively straightforward. I'll probably end up wrecking the cork and the XPS as I'm doing it. Yeah, no great loss. The drawback is at the moment I've only got one spare length of track, so I can't really do it easily. But that's possibly on the cards in the not too distant future. And there's a few other bits and pieces I want to do first, but that is causing problems, as you can probably imagine. There might be other ways of fixing it. I might be able to desolder bits and move it, but it's going to be a mess. It's also not very easy to work around here, so I suspect redoing the alignment is the way to go. Yeah, so that's that. So what was originally today going to be, and I'm not doing much, I'm just going to run stuff, has become a bit of a debugging session. So with that said, I'm going to run the A2 round and we'll see how she copes. Specifically now that is dealt with. The other issue is here. The track sort of comes along, comes down on an angle, goes straight over the crossing point and then goes down on an angle again. I cocked up when I built the boards. If you look under here, you can see how these are done. There's plywood uprights. They've got a bit of stripwood stuck to either side, and then the plywood deck is screwed to it. Problem is that plywood deck is flat. It needed to be on a very slight angle. So yeah, learning points for the future. Trains cope, but lower speed is better. To be fair, I don't really run trains particularly quickly anyway around here, so there's a lot of things with Leopard Street I'm going to cope with, because if I don't, I'm going to end up having to rip most of the track up and starting again, and I'm not doing that. So there, I'm just going to have to cope. There's going to be some running issues and temporary speed restrictions. But now, run the A2. Okay, here she is. Now, this is the sort of testing I spend my time doing down here. So first off, I'm going to set her to go at not unreasonable speed. That's a reference about a third. And around she goes. As I say, that's the junction where I was getting derailments. Just changing the coupling hooks, fine. So yeah, if you've got coaches that randomly derail or wagons that randomly derail on points after curves, just have a little look. And if you look closely, I'll zoom in a bit as she goes around again. You'll be able to see the dip as they go over that board joint. It's basically right where the brick wall ends. So here she comes rumbling round again. This is, say, about a third speed. To be honest, I'm probably not going to run trains a lot faster than this. The layout isn't particularly long. I don't want the idea of a train to be going round here and like 10 seconds later it's back. So let's zoom in a bit. I'll brace my elbows and watch as she goes over that join where the brick wall ends. See the little jolt? It's subtle, but it throws her off a little bit. So that's low speed. Let's go up a little bit. So this is 2/3. Now this is... I can't imagine running trains faster than this normally. This is like a testing speed. Goes quite nicely. It certainly looks fairly impressive doing it. Oh, what if we go faster? Bring her around here again, just past the troublesome bit. And this is not flat out, but getting there. So around we go again, high speed testing. And she's coming round. And for the sake of argument, this is flat out. We go round all the way. I'll drop the speed down to something slightly more sensible. That rear coach is lovely in there, it's crazy. That's good. It's quite entertaining, really. Yeah. So what I'm now going to do, I'm going to bring her around, I'm going to put her back into her starting position. I'm sort of going to show you how Leopard Street's going to work. Admittedly, the station isn't present yet, so this is going to be a bit... stop her there. What I don't have is the A1. I was going to do a demonstration and set the A1 up on the far end. I've decided not to here. So what I'm going to do is bring her back into her starting position. There may be some fun and games over this board join here as well, which isn't perfect. And we shall see. We'll come back here. Occasionally I get some issues. Like that, in fact. So I can just fix on the fly. This junction I'm not too bothered about because this is very firmly wrong way running. Trains won't normally run this way here at all. But this is at the moment is the only way to get into this yard section. So so that forwards. This is about where a train will start. The N2 is probably a little bit further forward. Well, the N2 is on a running section, so would be stopped around there somewhere. Sort of showing where the inner loop stops. The outer two loops stop about where the A2 is there. So there'll be another one on the outside. So she's sat there and she's going to head to the station. Now the station's up the incline, but the sequence is going to be roughly this. So we set her off and out we come. Out onto the main line. So once we're on the main line, at this point here, junction change. We're now on main line running, and she's going to rumble around that loop. And in the background, Leopard junction changes. So she comes around here, does a circuit at probably this sort of speed. I don't really see the need to go much faster than this. Also the trains are a lot quieter at slower speeds. So she's going to rumble around here, over the Leopard junction, where she now takes the incline. Rumbling up here, rumble, 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 and stops because the train doesn't go much further. Eventually that'll loop round into a station. She will then loop around and come back. Obviously be turned at the station. We'll come back down on the outer line. We'll come back, let's move over here. We'll come back along the outer line. We'll go down the middle where those wagons are. Rumble round there, climbing up the incline again. And we'll then come around here. These points will be set the other way. And she'll go back into the reverse loops. She'll run all the way round and stop in the start position. Or we'll stop at the end of the reverse loop because there'll be another train in there. And when that leaves, she'll pull forwards. That's the idea. So the yard can hold 6 trains. These outer loops will hold the 2 long goods trains. The van train will eventually be a bit longer when I can get some vans that work better. Incidentally, somebody's pointed out that there should be about half of this should probably be LMS vans. Yes, completely agree. And eventually I'm going to get some more. Some of these will then split off into the stopping goods train. And away we go. About 20 vehicles I think is fine for the 2 long trains. That'll work. But yeah, that will eventually be a mixture. Probably some more private owner in there as well. It's sort of what I got these for, but they're being naughty. Even at very low speeds, they're derailing on points at the moment, which suggests to me I need to change the wheels. I've done the back-to-backs. It's not worked, so there we go. So what I now need to do is bring my little train here back down, back into its parking position, and I'm going to do it slowly because she's going backwards. Some of the other things I've discovered with all these gradients, coupling height really matters. When you're pulling a train, it's easy. The problem comes when you're pushing one. Now the couplings and the beams of the couplings are touching each other, which is a bit of a problem, because if you get gradients and things aren't even, they start riding up over each other and they lift the wheels off the track, which is, let's face it, not good. So here we go. Bring these in here. Again, I'm expecting one of them to derail. Comes in, because this junction here is not brilliant. We should see. There we go. It's actually not that. It's derailing on the point, which is interesting. Yeah, maybe the back-to-back on the resistor wheel set needs checking. But she can go back in here now, like so. That's back in a home position. And I am going to just change a few more points, which as you can hear in the background hopefully. Incidentally, another change I've made down there, which is probably a little bit hard to see, but there is a power brick. That has replaced, there's a wall wart down there somewhere as well. The 5-volt power circuit that drives all the relays and all of the servos is now a 4-amp supply. The layout is behaving slightly better. I don't think I've got servos overloading each other. I am still getting the occasional brownout. That's on the logic side. Now, as I've sort of mentioned, where I'm tapping off 5 volts, sometimes it's 4.5. Yeah, what's happening is the ESP32s are browning out, restarting. When one of them goes down, it creates a little bit of a power surge. When it comes back on, that tends to trip a few others out, and the layout basically reboots itself. Bit of a problem. The Arduino Mega that just drives the layout doesn't, because it's a lot more tolerant of these things. Yes, another advantage of those. I sort of found myself thinking earlier, if this was a DC layout, that I just had a twin controller somewhere and a big panel of switches, I wouldn't have half these problems. It wouldn't be as fun, but I wouldn't have half the problems. So yeah, I still need to sort that out. I've got some little voltmeters coming. So as well as having a little green light here, which works, and this screwed down, I'll have a little voltmeter here showing me what's on the 5-volt logic bus. I'm just going to keep an eye on it, and I'm going to see what happens. But yeah, that's basically it for this episode. The channel subscribing and all that's going rather nicely. I've got a lot planned. I mean, I sort of showed you there's a little bit of a brief interlude of what's needed in the near future, and that's really just to get these reversing loops commissioned. That's sort of the next job. There's lots of little fiddly bits. That's the next big job. Get that done. I've got some parts on order. As I mentioned earlier, I've got a little pin vise hand drill. Over there, those little orange things in the middle of the screen, they're relays. I've got a whole load of those turned up. That's going to give me the reversing loop circuits. It's going to be done in stages. The first bit is going to be to get the reversing relays in, because I can then trigger those manually and I can test the loops when I've got the loops powered, which is another job. Still got those to fit as well. There's lots and lots and lots of little jobs that need doing. Anyway, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you with the K3 running around. Hopefully with its slightly better behaved wagons now. I've got one more point to change so that she stays on her loop, and then off we go. And I'll leave you watching this, and in the meantime I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. These wagons need dusting. Anyway.